Welcome to the Chamber Vibes podcast with your host, Brittany Timmons, the Greater Guthrie Chamber of Commerce CEO and President. In this podcast, you will hear from local guests who will discuss topics such as leadership, small business, and our vibrant community. You'll also hear success stories and tips from amazing local businesses, dive into important news, meet community leaders, and find out how you can get involved in our community. From the Second Banana Media Studios in beautiful and historic downtown Guthrie, America, here is Brittany Timmons.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Chamber Vibes. I will say I am, whenever you're watching this, but for me, I am happy to be back in the studio. It's actually my first episode of 2024. It's been a little crazy. We've had weather and all kinds of things, chamber banquets, so I'm excited to be back in the studio. And today I've got my good friend and fellow chamber board member, Miss Cara Adney, on today with Meridian Technology. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So it's been a little while since we've had friends on from Meridian Tech, and we could have a separate show for all of the things that are offered at Meridian Tech. And so Cara is over the Film Institute. She's a project manager. And so today, I kind of want to talk about your story. I know a little bit about your story, but people watching or listening may not. And so before we talk about all the things that you guys have going on at Meridian, let's talk about how you ended up here.
How far back do you want to go?
I know. Well, not too far back.
Yeah. No. So I'm one of the people that moved to Oklahoma for college and have stayed.
Okay.
I grew up in a rural community in Kentucky, probably about 45 minutes between Lexington and Louisville, Kentucky. And so literally on the outside of Louisville part.
Okay.
I studied sociology in undergrad school, along with journalism and public relations, and really fell in love with a very unique niche population in sociology. And so Oklahoma State had a master's and a PhD program tailored to that. And so I applied and got accepted and moved. And
was that right after high school?
Yeah, no, it was right after my undergrad.
Oh, under your undergrad. Okay.
And so I moved out here in '99 with the plans to get my doctorate and to head on close to back home.
Right.
But life, you make plans and you think that they're great.
Oh, I was always going back to the 918. I mean, they joke with me around here because I'm a 918 girl. And
502.
I was always going back. I was going back to Tulsa, and here I am.
Here we both are. And so, so I started grad school at OSU, had a unique experience there where I just kind of had a shift of, I grew up in a small community, only child, parents had a small business, so really sheltered. And working on my master's degree, just kind of realized I have no life experience. All I have is what I've read. And I kind of do a pretty decent job of stepping outside and taking an outside perspective in. And I thought I wouldn't hire me for anything because all I have is school. And so I had an opportunity to go to work.
That happens a lot.
It does.
I feel like.
It does.
Which we can talk about, but that's why
Career Tech
is so life-changing.
It is because sometimes you find out that, this is really what I want to do.
Right.
And then sometimes you find out this maybe isn't what I want to do.
And you can learn skills at a younger age, or you can change careers as an adult.
In your 40s. You can.
That's right.
It happens.
Yeah.
So I moved out here, went to work directly in the field that I came out here to study, and then just kind of had a moment of, I'm not sure if this is a life plan for me and my husband at the time. And so still my husband, but just at that period of time, we just needed to make a shift for things. We both worked in the same industry, and it just wasn't family friendly for anything. And so
let's tell them how you met.
Sometimes I skirt around. Yeah,
it's okay.
I skirt around because you never know.
We played a fun game at our chamber board retreat, 2 Truths and a Lie, just to kind of get to know each other. And one of your truths was that you met your husband in prison.
Yes,
but explain, because it's a good story.
Yes. So the area that I studied in corrections, or in sociology, was corrections. decisions. And so, as most people in Oklahoma know, you're kind of leading the pack, or we're now kind of leading the pack in that, sadly. And so, if you're wanting to study and wanting to research, and specifically my area of interest was in reentry programs. And so, I just have a strong personal belief that all of us are 1 second away from making a bad decision that can change the path of our lifestyle and our livelihood. And for people who have done their time, they deserve an opportunity to come back and be productive members of society. And just socially, we still have that stigma with that. And so my area of interest was in reentry programs and working with the vendors to ensure that they had job skills and interview skills before they were released from prison. I worked at Cimarron Correctional Facility. It's not known by, it's Core Civic now, but in Cushing for about 6 years, kind of while I was in grad school, and then once I finished, I was there for about 6 years full time. And so, yes, I did meet my husband in prison. So if we are playing Two Truths and a Lie, like, and if you're watching and listening to this, like, just pretend that you don't know that.
Yeah, there you go.
Because it was so funny when I left school to go to that, into the workforce. I remember my mom just saying, like, what did we do wrong? Like, you went out there to get your doctorate and to teach at the college level, and now you're working in a prison. But David and I, my husband, we will both say that we learned everything about dealing with people in that environment, because you work with and you interact with people from all different backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, personal beliefs, tragic life situations that lead them down a path. I was extremely fortunate with the company that I worked with, that they entrusted me to build a reentry program for offenders who are going to be leaving, because typically with the state, you discharge from a minimum security prison, and the one in Cushing, or pardon me, you discharge from a minimum, and the one in Cushing is a medium security prison. And so sometimes the wheels of justice run slow, and sometimes they go fast. And so when we were discharging people, they literally left with, $20 a bus ticket, and that's about it. Yeah. And so the facility that I worked at really helped build a community where that wasn't the case. And so I tell people, and this is also awful to say, but I happened to be over segregation when we had our first riot there, and that was kind of my turning point for myself. My husband, David, at the time was over tactical teams for the company in a regional area, and so every aspect of our life revolved around that. And I woke up one day thinking, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Right. I can imagine that being like really emotionally taxing.
It was, but it was also very rewarding.
Right. I can see that too.
I mean, it had both.
You saw people change their lives, turn around, get out, make changes, and do well.
And so that was definitely, and it's a great group of people who work in that environment, because you're definitely not going into that for the accolades, for the glory, for the pay, any aspect with that. And so the quality of people were just phenomenal there. And so, but when I realized that this maybe shouldn't be what I do. Yes. Like I said, reentry programs are my area of interest. I grew up in rural Kentucky. At the time, the school district that I was in did not have a vocational program, and back in the 90s it was vocational. And so I didn't really even know too much about the career tech system. Ironically, when I moved to Oklahoma, I lived just across the street from the state agency in Stillwater, and so but had no clue what that was, had no clue what Meridian was. A friend of mine worked there, and she had told me, she's like, hey, I think that you would really find a rewarding aspect of working here. And so the more that I learned about it, the more I thought, yes, this is exactly what I'm passionate about, but without people having the state tell them that, hey, you need to get a job skill.
Were you already living in Stillwater?
I was.
And commuting to Cushing, so you're already familiar with Stillwater?
Yes, okay. And so we lived in Cushing for several years, and then when I left, then my husband left and started working for a state agency in Oklahoma City. And so we actually split our commute, and we built a house here in Guthrie. We lived over by the Lazy E, and so he would head south and I would head north for things. And we lived there for probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And so we had, my stepson came to live with us. Like, we moved into that house in Thanksgiving to be closer to him. And that February, he moved in with us full time. And so it just worked. When I tell people, like, Guthrie will always hold a special place in my heart, because, like, this literally is the community where our family became a full family.
Yes, same
and so
for me.
Just kind of feel like that, heartstring with it for personal aspects for things. And so, then when David took a different job, we had to live within close to city limits in Stillwater, so we packed up and we moved. And I've been at Meridian now going on, March will be 18 years, which is insane for me to say.
Right. We were just talking about before the show how that feels like just
no time.
A minute ago.
Time.
And you're like, 20 years ago was still in the 2000s.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so when I moved to Meridian, I actually started out as an administrative assistant in the superintendent's office. I tell everyone, like, there is so much value in starting at those positions. When I started in corrections, I started as a correctional officer, learned everything, worked my way up.
Well, then you learn every aspect of the office, you know.
And so for me, not being super familiar with career tech, everything comes through that office. And so not only did I learn about Meridian Technology Center, the communities that we serve, and the impact that we make, I learned about the broader system. And so there are 29 technology centers, just like Meridian Technology Center, across the state. And each tech center serves a very defined community. They are voted in by districts and by school districts. And so Meridian has 10 communities that we serve. Guthrie is, I think, our second largest, and we're super excited to now actually have a physical campus here on South Division.
You talked about Guthrie being home years ago, or always feeling like home. Did you think that you would end up kind of working here again? I mean, you know, because the thought of a campus when you started at Meridian probably wasn't even thought of yet, or maybe it was way long term.
It's been on the radar for a long time. I do remember that, because I remember telling Dr. Major, our superintendent, like, every time I would drive up to work, I'd be like, Doug, when we ever get a campus in Guthrie, I will gladly work there, because it would be a much shorter
always
commute.
hoping. Yeah.
And so the irony that life does come full circle. It's like, I am in Guthrie now, but now I'm just making the commute kind of the reverse way for things.
Okay.
But so I worked in administration for probably 4 years with both Dr. Kelly, the previous superintendent, as well as Dr. Major, our current superintendent. Had the opportunity to move into the communications department and kind of get to put those skill sets to work to help tell Meridian stories, and stayed there for about 13 years. When we knew that we had purchased the land, and when we knew that we were going to start building, because of Guthrie's history in Oklahoma's film network, the hub of Oklahoma's film network. We knew that some type of film training was going to be taking place at this campus. So we didn't quite know, I don't think, like what that was going to look like. And so I had an opportunity to work with the individual who was in my role before me. As he was learning about the film industry, I learned about the film industry as well.
Kind of just had to dive in.
Yeah, because I tell people,
because either one of you really had a background in that, but you're like, okay, we're going to be offering this, and now somebody has to learn to figure out how to run this.
Yes. And so I tell people, like, I don't really even go to the movies. Now, I watch my fair share of TV, and the concepts are exactly the same for everything.
Right.
But, and I don't go to the movies because I don't like people talking behind me. Like, it's not a industry aspect.
Now you can get everything at home.
I know, for real. Yeah. And so I learned about everything from the marketing side, and had to really take a deep dive into what the roles are in the film industry, the economic development aspects that come with a film or any type of production taking place in any community, and the impact that it has on the local economy. And so when my predecessor left, I was like, I seem to know a lot about this now.
Right.
And like I said, I'd been at Meridian in that same role, in that same department for about 13 years. And so it was nice to be able to tackle a project that was solely mine. Because before, I had the wonderful opportunity to share everybody else's story, and now I get to use those same skill sets to help Oklahoma filmmakers try to get the skills that they need to help tell larger stories as well. So
that's awesome. And some of you may not know, watching or listening, that we actually were able, the chamber was able, and the city of Guthrie was able to be part of starting the first Capitol Film Institute at Meridian through a grant that we applied for through Oklahoma Workforce. Basically, they opened up grant funding and said, hey, if you can find a gap in the workforce, we will fund a project if you can show that you can use that money to start something to create jobs. And so Meridian Tech and myself with the chamber and Justin Fortney with Guthrie Tourism and city manager at the time, we all kind of came together and we applied and we received this grant. And so it was really exciting. That was the chamber's first grant to be part of.
I didn't know that.
It was.
No,
yeah.
wow.
Yes. And so Shonda Rooney actually helped write the grant, and that was a first for her too. So we were all kind of not really knowing what we were doing, but the city is obviously very familiar with grant writing, but Shonda herself was still fairly new. And so she did an amazing job. We came together as a team, worked on the application, and then we received the funding. So because of that funding, we were able to help start the Film Institute at Meridian. And then from there, it's gone on its own. But
it has continued
super cool.
to grow. Yeah, when I say like we would not be able to do what we're doing without the support of this community, I mean, I literally mean that. That is not figuratively.
Right.
If it wasn't for the grant opportunities and also we received some lottery grant money as well from the state to be able to start this program. That is, in my opinion, a make or break aspect of it.
Right.
And so that's one reason that a majority of our film industry classes take place here at our South Campus in Guthrie. I office at both locations, but spend about anywhere from 2 to 3 days here at the South Campus and in the Guthrie community.
Yes.
And so when we say like we're here to support this community as well as our entire district in the film aspect, this is we're here because of you. And so and we take that very seriously.
That we were part of it, and like South Campus was just getting ready to open, and so it was just really exciting. So let's talk about First Capital Film. What does that mean? What are the opportunities people can have through that program? Things like that.
So I think if most people think about Career Tech or Meridian, the programs that they most know are full-time programs for high school students and adults. So high school juniors and seniors from Guthrie, they'll get on a Meridian bus either in the morning and the afternoon. They'll go to Stillwater. They'll take a program based on their needs and kind of some jobs that they want to do. So that's going to be anything from your traditional career tech programs, and this month is actually CTE month, so it's even more perfect to be able to share our story during this month. But that's not the role that's not the division that I'm in. A whole other side of what Career Tech does is support existing businesses and emerging businesses, so entrepreneurs with that. The Workforce and Economic Development Division is kind of the umbrella that I'm in, and so what we do is we work with existing businesses to either train or retrain a workforce to support their needs. Very much like every tech center across the state, we only train people for jobs that exist in our district. I tell people, in our district and in our part of Logan County, we don't have wind turbines just yet.
And so it is on the screen.
Yes. And so we don't offer training in that.
Right.
And so,
when we get that, which we will actually be,
I know. I've been listening on those chamber meetings.
We have a chamber investor, in Venergy, that's coming into Logan County, and that will create jobs here. And so that may be something that Career Tech needs to look at, if that's going to be a long-standing project, which I assume that it will be. So
I would assume so. So at our main campus, in our full-time area, we have from that energy sector, we have an energy and power program. We have utility line worker program,
which that's fairly new, right?
It is. Yes. I think that's now it's on its second academic year. This year is a phenomenal program's first year for us. It is underground utility locator. That program is just a dream for parents, for students, for adults, for the local economy. It is for high school students and adults. You do have to be a senior because you have to have your CDL as a part of that. But it is with USIC. I have no idea what those letters stand for, but
I've seen them on the trucks.
Yes.
So they're out and about. Yes.
They are. They're going to be the people who, if anybody's digging in the ground, they're going to come out and they are going to check to be sure where all the lines are so that you can avoid that and avoid breakages of service and power. That company provides everything for students. We've provided the space for the training. Students, their first semester, learn everything, and their second semester, they will receive a paid for by the company vehicle, logoed vehicle, the computer. They'll take the vehicle is theirs for work use only. And so hopefully when we head up to Stillwater this month with Leadership Guthrie, we'll get to see a parking lot full of USIC trucks. And so cool. And when they finish, they have an opportunity to go to work for the program or for the company, a moving bonus. The company is also, one thing that's very unique about it is they are very particular about work-life balance, and so they have a limited amount of time that you're away from your family. If you're in a job that's going to take you away out of town for anything, but it's a nationwide company, and so you really have an opportunity to go wherever.
That's so cool.
Those are the programs that I think that most people are familiar with when we talk about career tech.
The medical side.
Yes,
so much.
And so, yes.
Yeah, there they are on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, all of the program. There's more than like I said, we could have a separate show about every different career opportunity and training that Meridian offers. So
we have about 20 full-time programs that students can take. And so I will also make a shameless plug that now is the time, if you have a sophomore, junior, or senior who is interested in full-time career training at Meridian, now is the time. February 1st kind of starts our application period. Interviews will be done sometime in March, generally. And then letters of being accepted into a program tend to be in early April, and it sounds crazy to think that it's
just like college,
it's February
though,
and we're already planning for August, but we are. And so,
well, and I'll do a plug for the base camp. Except I really shouldn't broadcast it because it fills up so fast. No, my 7th grader got to attend base camp, which is a 3-day program that's a camp that Meridian puts on for junior high age students. And she was able to learn in 3 days a little bit of cosmetology. She did, what else did she do? Cooking, and then she did some forensic science. Criminal justice. And so there's information about base camp, but it was amazing. I mean, Hadley still talks about it, and I know she can't wait for this year. And I just love that because she even just got a taste at 12 years old at the time, of career tech and the opportunities there. So super cool.
Summer camp tends to be, just for planning purposes for families, tends to be one of those first weeks of June that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, kind of in that combination for things.
Because it is such a cool opportunity. Hads will not be happy if we miss that.
We don't have the date set for this year, but just knowing that it's going to be around that same time.
Early
for
June.
everything.
It's pretty much like right after school gets out.
It is, it is. And so it is taught by both our full-time instructors who are in the program, but we also invite students to come back and to help with that.
Cool.
And so
awesome.
You're getting a completely different experience, but all the fun things with each of those programs for things.
So what opportunities right now is the Film Institute offering? And is there classes for high school students, or is it 18 and up? Explain kind of how that works.
Yeah. So for the most part, the classes that I coordinate are evening classes. Okay. As soon as I say for the most part, then I'm going to list out all the exceptions to everything because there are several.
There's always exceptions.
There are. And so they're for adults, but if we can take anyone 16 and older for that. And so to work in the industry, though, you have to be 18 for the crew type positions. And so parents just know that is industry standard for things for just insurance and liability and all of that type of stuff.
Right.
So, without getting way too into the film crew hierarchy that I'm also still learning, the crew aspect really covers what in the industry term, anything below the line, which for me, up until 3 years ago, meant nothing. But those really are, I explain it to people, when you're done watching a movie and you get up and you leave and the credits are going and they're going pretty fast and they have jobs like best boy and camera operator and, all the things that most people don't gaffer. I didn't know what that was. Those are the jobs that we're training for. And because those are the critical jobs that there is that skills gap, as you know, when you all worked on this application for the grant to get us started.
Yeah, not to side rail, on that, but I do want to note that I remember when we were working on the grant application, we were talking with Prairie Surf and different groups around the state as far as the gaps go, like Amazon and Netflix and large companies were wanting to come here, but when they would look at Oklahoma because of all the great tax benefits. That our legislator put out there, which was headed up by Senator Chuck Hall. So shout out to him for all of working hard on all of that. That they wanted to come here, but then they're we need, we're 4 crews, shy of being able to produce XYZ show or movie. And so that's when it was like, oh, there truly is a gap here because we don't have trained people in Oklahoma. Or I feel like if they are from Oklahoma, they've moved to LA, you know, places that are film heavy. And now it's like Oklahoma is film heavy. So we need to get them trained. We need to get jobs here, boots on the ground.
And sometimes it's really that conversation of which comes first, like the chicken or the egg. Right. And this is one of the things that I share with people when we talk about film industry training. It's like the worst thing possible for any of us involved in this is to train a lot of people to then not have jobs for them to get. And so it's kind of a fine line of how do you build a workforce to support something that's not here yet,
they gotta wait for it
without having those projects here.
That's so true.
Honestly, I think that's where Guthrie is a shining star. And I'm not saying that at all with my affiliation or anything with that, but I tell people, films have filmed in Guthrie long before that there was an incentive.
Exactly.
It makes it more financially appealing to have an incentive.
Right, but we have the architecture and the resources.
And most importantly, you have a community that engages and supports this.
Right.
And so Justin Fortney with the city of Guthrie, he and I work closely together. He is just a wizard when it comes to making all things happen.
Locations,
for
props,
everything with
you
that.
name it. Yes.
He is definitely the go-to person. I was actually just in Alva for work, and their WED director had just gone on and on and on about how helpful the city of Guthrie was because they're trying to mirror what you all have done so well
for so many years.
Yes, because I tell people that there's a lot of ways that local business and industry and Oklahomans can support the film industry if they don't have a soundstage in their district. And while Guthrie and Meridian and Guthrie both hope that that is a part of the landscape here in this community, the community has done well for itself without having that. And so I tell people, like, my dream scenario for these types of classes is that people who may not have ever thought or had an idea of what that career path would look like, because I think sometimes it's just a matter of you don't know what you don't know. And that's 100% been my experience with this. But when we talk about films or jobs in the industry, most people think like, oh, I want to be an actor, a writer, a director. Well, those are the named jobs, but it is literally like when a film comes into town, it is anywhere from 100 to, depending on the size, could be down to 30. But 30 people working in your community, living in your community, eating in your community, buying product in your community.
Huge economic
It is
impact.
A huge aspect. And so that's kind of coming from a rural community myself, my parents being small business owners, like that's kind of the heartstrings for me, is that, and the message that I hope that we can share across the state for smaller communities is that there's a possibility for this. There's a lot to gain for your businesses and your local economy, even if a film just comes in for a month.
Yeah. Which we'll take it in Guthrie. Yes. We'll take it for 10 days. We'll take it for 4 months. You know, we're ready.
And so for people who are trying to figure out, like, well, how do I even get to film in Guthrie? Ironically, this was set before I even thought about that, how nice this was going to play out in terms of timing, is that one of the next series that we're going to be having in our film industry training program is a location series. And so this is one of the jobs that really does actually sound like what the job title is that there's a whole division in the film industry that all they do, or what the main thing that they're responsible for, is taking the script, working with the director, the producer, to hammer out like what those details need to be to bring that vision, that creative vision to life. Their job is to go out and find that at a place that can sustain a crew coming in, sustain financially, being able to come into a town. So for instance, like we've pivoted quite a bit, in my opinion, from what the original plan and types of classes that we were going to offer to what we are offering now. One of the classes that was on the original list was set construction. And when I moved into this role, one of the first things I did was I tried to talk to as many people as I can who film in Guthrie or who are Oklahoma filmmakers and very familiar with the Oklahoma film scene, because I think that's important to understand what actually happens here, not what happens in Hollywood or another state that has an amazing film program, but what happens here. And I realized very, very quickly, like, people aren't filming a movie they're not coming to Guthrie to film a movie to build a set that looks like Guthrie. They're coming to Guthrie to use Guthrie. Yep. So the set construction is not, for now, anything that we're
here. Okay,
and so
that makes sense,
because you all have what people want. Like you are why they're coming here, and so
I mean, you can use our temple to build a Oval Office inside of it.
Yes, and so Ty Dixon is very instrumental when productions come and work with the temple. He is actually going to be teaching our location series class. If you are familiar with filming in town, you will definitely know Ty. And so Ty is actually based out of Perkins. He's been in the film industry in various roles for about 20 plus years for things. And so he is coming on board to teach our location series.
Is that something that's starting soon?
It is. Okay. Yeah. The intro class to it. And so one of the things that that we're pivoting to as well is recognizing that you hear these jobs, but you may not really know what they do. And rather than saying like, hey, you want to learn about locations? Come spend 8 nights with me and $200. Let's step back.
You can take an intro class.
Let's take a one-night class.
See if this isn't what you want to do.
And
that's
so,
great.
And so our one-night class for that is like $29. And so
that's all you're out if it's not for you.
It's 3 hours, one night, and you can figure out like, is this what I want to do?
That's cool.
And so I'm trying to build that into all of our series because I recognize, like, I will tell people when it's important to me that a kid in a rural community who doesn't have access to anything in the creative arts, that they have a space to learn and to know what can happen here. Because coming from a rural community, you don't always hear that. And I think even still with the great job that the state does and the city of Guthrie does to talk about the film industry here, if you're not in Guthrie, that's not something that you're hearing all the time.
Right.
And so we're partnering with our school districts to bring that kind of exposure and just awareness, like, hey, I have a presentation that's like literally, if you're interested in this, here's how it matches up with the film industry. Because
like the girls or guys and gals going to cosmetology school may, think that their career path is, working at a salon or a spa somewhere, but maybe it's learning cosmetology school at Meridian and then going straight into working on a film set.
It is. And so, and ironically,
we've got some Guthrie students.
We do. Yeah. We have
I saw them on your Facebook.
Yes,
so cool.
Yeah. We have several makeup classes that are going on this month to the point where they've been popular, so popular that we've added 3 repeats here starting. We have so many that I'm getting them confused. On the 12th of January, or February, we have camera ready makeup. On the 19th and the 20th, we have the first day is a color theory foundation matching. It was fascinating to me because I sit in on all the classes. And
I know, I'm like, I want to come just peek.
Can
I learn a thing or two about just, myself?
I learned how to do eyeliner the right way.
Yes.
I learned that for 30 plus years, I've been wearing the wrong color foundation.
Okay.
Like, it has been, so even if you're not going into the film industry, it's very helpful.
That's what I was like,
And so we have then a 3rd class that we're adding on, and we are going to offer the color theory and foundation matching in Stillwater on February 26th. And
awesome.
So makeup has been my January, and then February and March we're moving into locations as kind of our main area of focus. Typically, like I said, it's a 2-week block. We've kind of chopped that up, recognizing the needs of the district and what works well for us. And that's one thing that really made just my heart beat faster when we were on with the Leadership Guthrie, and Dr. Simpson was talking about, like, this is who we are, and this is what we can do with it, and we're doing the best that we can, and we're recognizing these are our strengths, and we're capitalizing on those.
Yes.
And that very same thing. And so we're trying to chunk bigger topics out so that it's not 8 nights away from your family. We recognize that you're juggling a lot of things because most of the people who are taking these classes have a day job, that's something else, and they're interested in either transitioning into this or working in the film industry as a side project, as a side career for things. And so recognizing that most people don't have 8 nights that they want to dedicate from 6 to 9 or 6 to 10 in a classroom, we're chunking it out by topics. And so we'll have our first intro to the locations, then we'll go into like kind of that deep dive. Justin Fortney is teaming up with Ty Dixon for our locations. It's the longest title, and I made it, so it's my own fault. But it is basically like, how do you work with the city to get your permits that you need to close down streets, to work with private businesses.
Very cool.
All of that. And so Justin's coming in to assist with that. So people in that class can hear like, all right, here's the what and the why from the film perspective, and here's the what and the why and the needs of the city, so that you can mutually understand and hopefully speed up that process, that when you do put in to work in a city or to film in a city in a public space, that you get your application right the first time.
Got you.
Justin wants to help you make Justin's job easier.
Yes, there
and
you
to
go.
be able to bring more productions to Guthrie.
Awesome.
And then we have a camera, a photography class for locations that is also with a local photographer, Perkins-based photographer, who does a lot of construction photographs. And so that's a very unique, special skill to be able to take photos of buildings and have them look good.
Right.
And so
they can help with location.
We'll move into that. And in March, I'm super excited about these two. We're doing drones for film industry. And so, last August, I attended a drone film festival and
didn't even know that was a thing.
Same, completely same. And so my goal for that was to walk away with an instructor from that weekend. And I did, with one of the festival organizers. And so he is super excited to come to Guthrie. He lives in Choctaw and to teach that class. Cool. And so we'll do an intro, a 2-night one in March, and then kind of drone strategy and angles and filming in April for things. And
so where's the best way they can find out all of this information?
I was gonna say,
it's a lot of info.
It is.
Yes.
You can look anything up on our website at meridiantech.edu. You can either do /film industry or /first capital.
First Capital. There it is. Very cool. And all the information's there as far as with the courses that are already scheduled.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and you don't have to have any experience.
No, literally none.
Just come and check it out. I love the intro idea because, like you said, it would be a big chunk or an ask from somebody that gets 2 nights in and they're like, I don't want to do this, so they can come and learn. And that's awesome. Well, I think it's really exciting, all that you guys are working on. I can tell how much it makes you happy.
It does.
And you love it. No, you love it.
Yeah,
and that's okay. I get excited too about Guthrie. That's what when we love what you do, it just seeps out of you and you can tell. And so I'm pumped to see, like I said, I loved seeing even just a few of the Guthrie high school students that I know, flash up on their Facebook page, and there they are doing film makeup. It's so cool. And they're like 17 years old. And I loved that. So anyway.
One of the things that I'm most excited about, and I hope that we can keep this stat up, but so far, out of every single class, our instructor has hired a student out of the class. Wow. And so I tell people, if you're taking these classes, not only is it an opportunity for you to learn, but we're picking people to teach based on their experience in Oklahoma, and we've been extremely fortunate with our instructor pool that all of those people are the people who are doing hiring. And so up until now, every instructor has hired at least one person out of the class. We have also had fellows.
No pressure.
Yeah, none at all. They're repeat. They're repeat instructors. Many of them teach several classes for us, and so. And we've even had students who have hired fellow students with that. And so I tell people my goal is for, the state, we talk about being big budget film, bringing big budget films into the state and the economic impact that has. And that is very true. But I firmly believe that you need to start with smaller independent films to learn, to get experience, to figure out this career is not what I wanted. Maybe I want to do this. And so I tell people my dream is for Guthrie and for the program that we're doing to be an independent filmmaker's best friend. My goal is when people are filming in Guthrie and they're going to call Justin and they're going to say hey, we're coming, and he's going to do all the paperwork, and then they're going to say, Justin has already done this. Get with Cara. She does some training programs that can help get you some production assistance or, whatever topic or role that somebody might be needing. And that people will come to work here. They will work on a couple films. And if they want to learn more and get more advanced training, they can partner with Francis Tuttle or any of the other technology centers that do film industry training, get that big studio production experience, and just continue to bring productions to Oklahoma. So awesome. But I hope they all start here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's so exciting to see all that you all are doing. Thank you for taking time to hang out with me today. Excited. And I love it. Thank you for if you don't know, Cara does serve on the chamber board. I think I mentioned that earlier. So thank you for your commitment to that and your commitment to Guthrie and to Meridian. So we love partnering with Meridian. We can't talk enough about how great Meridian is in that partnership. Not only having the campus here, but well before the campus was here, all the things you were doing for Guthrie students and adults.
Yes.
And so anyway, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I was going to say, if you have
reach out.
any questions, my information is on the website. Our number here at the South Campus.
Call us. We'll get you in touch with Cara.
Is 405 377-3334 is the number to our South Campus. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, friend. I appreciate it. And there you go. Go check it out. First Capital Film Institute. So thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time for another episode of Chamber Vibes.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Chamber Vibes podcast from Second Banana Media Studios in beautiful downtown Guthrie, America. Be sure and check out a new episode every other Monday. And until then, remember to choose Guthrie.